I sit at my mother's birthday dinner, wrapped in the humming warmth of clinking glasses and overlapping conversations. 25 faces tilt toward Mom as she pulls gifts from tissue paper, her smile widening with each rustle. At the head of the long table, Dad stands and lifts his glass the way he has my entire life, commanding the room with a single clearing of his throat. To Elaine, he declares, voice carrying easily, 65, and still putting up with the lot of us. Laughter ripples from one end of the table to the other. I join in, raising my water in the same practiced gesture I've used at every family celebration. It feels familiar. It looks like belonging. It nearly convinces me. Dad's eyes slide to me, catching the room's light with that gleam he gets before he lands a joke. And to Giada, he adds, pointing at me with his wine, still battling away at that, what do you call it, the pajama laptop thing, saving the world in sweatpants from her couch, right? My hand tightens around my glass. My smile holds while laughter breaks around me. Aunt Carol snorts into her napkin. Uncle Phil shakes his head, the same chuckle he reserves for stories about his daughter's art degree. My brother, Carter, meets my gaze for a heartbeat, then looks away, an apologetic grin glued in place. Something inside me shifts, not a crack, more like a continent finally moving after years of pressure. The picture sharpens. They will not respect what I do. They will not recognize what I've built. The approval I've chased for 33 years is a finish line they will keep moving. There is no panic, no cinematic swell of heartbreak, only cool, clean clarity. I fold my napkin and set it beside my plate. I rise, smoothing my dress. Happy birthday, Mom, I say softly. Then I walk away from the table, from the laughter that falters mid-breath, from a role I have outgrown. 18 months earlier, I was in Dad's study telling him I was leaving my corporate media job. I need work that means something, I said, outlining my plan to start a brand strategy consultancy. Hands steady, research done, numbers triple, check. Sounds like a midlife crisis, he muttered, eyes never leaving the paper. Bit early for that. The script never changed. Carter's law firm promotions merited champagne and toasts. Lydia's hospital administration job. She's doing real work that matters. Miles's finance career, building something tangible. And me, a perpetual punchline. How's your little side venture? They'd ask, as if I were selling jam at the weekend market, instead of repositioning companies whose balance sheets depended on the right strategy. Still, I kept showing up. I kept trying to earn a seat by doing the one thing I knew how to do. Work quietly, build well, hope they'd notice. The texts start before I reach my car. Carter, Dad was just joking. Don't be so sensitive, Lydia. Way to make Mom's birthday about you. Mom, please come back inside, sweetie. Don't ruin the evening. I drive home in silence, my phone buzzing angrily on the passenger seat. By morning, the texts become calls. By afternoon, the knock I've known since childhood. Mom stands in the hall. Dad looms behind her. Carter hovers, uneasily loyal to the scene. This has gone on long enough. Dad announces, already shouldering past me into my apartment. You're dragging this out, and frankly, it's embarrassing. I open the door wider and let them in. An act that looks like accommodation and feels like a decision. You've never respected my work. I say, voice calm, not once in the last 18 months, not once in my life. I'd like you to leave now. Mom blinks hard. Dad's face reddens. Now listen here. Please leave. I repeat, even unwavering. Our family machine has always been simple. Dad directs, Mom smooths. The kids fall into line. For 33 years I have been the dependable cog, the quiet one, the peacemaker, the adjuster of expectations. Now I am the jammed gear. I watch the surprise pass over their faces, then the anger, then the bewilderment of a system that no longer works the way it used to. When the door closes behind them, the apartment fills with a silence that does not feel empty. It feels like a statement. I think of the steady corporate job I wore like a uniform I never chose. Of every gathering where I arranged my features into the correct expression and let jokes glance off my skin like dull blades. Tonight, for the first time as an adult, my answer was silence, and it said exactly what needed saying. The ivory envelope on my counter glows like a small warning. Gold embossing announces Miles and Sophie. Engagement celebration, the date looped in elegant calligraphy. 6 weeks have passed since I walked out of Mom's party, and this invitation arrives as if nothing happened. No, we miss you. No, can we talk? Just a place, a time, and the assumption I will show up smiling. Giada, we hope you can make it. Miles scrawls at the bottom. Hope, not want, not need, conditional, distant. Carter texts, you get the invite. Miles wants to know if you're coming. No mention of the standoff. No acknowledgement of the words that started it and the silence that followed. This is the Morty family way. Roll the rug over the bulge and pretend the floor is still smooth. I open Instagram without thinking. Mom's page shows last weekend's dinner. Dad at the head, Carter, Lydia, Miles, and Sophia around a table heavy with pasta and wine. The caption is harmless. The comment from Dad is not. Thankfully, no sensitive souls at this table tonight. 17 likes, including my siblings. The truth settles like wet cement. They have already written the story. I am the difficult daughter throwing a tantrum. My boundaries are a phase. My absence, temporary, my laptop pings. Video call. The thumbnail shows the whole cast on the living room couch. Intervention dressed as reconciliation. Giada, honey, we've been trying to reach you. Mom sings. Dad leans forward. Turn your camera on. We need to talk like adults. I click the camera and sit a little taller. An old reflex when judgment is coming. Mom smiles, too wide at the edges. We should clear the air before Miles's party, she says. The whole family will be there. I haven't decided if I'm attending. Their faces move as one. Shock first, then offense. What do you mean you haven't decided? Miles demands, it's my engagement party. I understand. I begin, but Carter cuts across me. This is why we tiptoe around you. Everything becomes a federal case. I didn't realize respecting my work was walking on eggshells. I say, Lydia exhales dramatically. Have you thought about seeing someone, professionally? You've always been sensitive, but this is. She lets the sentence dangle where it can hurt the most. Sensitive, the word floats between us, stripped of context and repackaged as weakness. You can't miss this, Miles insists, leaning close to his camera. It would ruin my day if my own sister weren't there. That's not my intention. Dad raises his voice, crowding out mine. You've always been difficult, Giada. Always trying to be different instead of being part of this family. Different. Difficult? The labels they stamped on me whenever I didn't fit the mold. If you don't come, Mom adds softly, the velvet over the blade, it could permanently damage your relationship with your brother. Is that what you want? The message is clear. Conform or be cast out. An ecosystem that cannot tolerate a species evolving. Think about what people will say. Lydia presses. All the relatives will be there. We're trying to help you, Carter concludes. Don't you see that? After 30 minutes, the call ends. The apartment is quiet again. Tears come hot and stubborn as the full weight of their expectations presses down. The choice in front of me looks like a coin that cannot land on the side I need, dignity or belonging. Either way, loss, an email lands. Subject line, thank you. It's from the small publishing house I rebranded last quarter. the one that was bleeding out before we flipped their story and their numbers. We just closed our best quarter in 5 years, the CEO writes. The board mentioned you by name as the quiet force behind our turnaround. You should know, warmth spreads through my chest, seen not by blood, but by results. The engagement invitation waits on the counter, demanding an answer. The question, I realize, isn't whether I'll attend Miles's party. It's whether I'll keep attending the performance of family at the expense of my truth. 4 days later, my phone starts singing at dawn. Dad's Facebook litany, the newest post, everyone clustered around a bonfire at Uncle Phil's lake house. Family always shows up for each other, no matter what, the caption reads. 27 likes, 14 comments, beautiful family, so true. I set the phone face down and breathe through the tightness in my sternum. Mom calls while I'm knee-deep in analytics. I nearly let it roll to voicemail. Miles is disappointed you haven't RSVP'd, she says by way of hello. He specifically asked me to check. I haven't decided. I say, my voice steadier than my pulse. What is there to decide? He's your brother. The tap runs in the background. Dishes clink. Mom has never called me with both hands free. I have a client meeting that weekend. I say. She sighs with the gravity of 3 decades practice. You know the pre-engagement dinner is Thursday at our house. Everyone will be there. Thursday. Also the day I pitch Portland National Bank, my biggest potential client yet. The timing is either uncanny or calculated. After we hang up, the family phone tree blooms. Aunt Carol, why are you making drama? Uncle Phil, Cousin Stephanie, judgment in orderly succession, at 2 a.m. I'm still editing the deck for Portland National. This is the 3rd night I've worked until dawn. Not strictly because the work requires it, but because proving my business isn't a hobby has become its own full-time job. Before every family call, the anxiety starts like a moth in my stomach and beats its wings up into my throat. I've built rituals to contain it. Breathe in 4s, roll shoulders, rehearse lines. No, this isn't a phase. Yes, I have real clients. No, I don't regret leaving corporate. I've practiced the truth in the car, in the shower, into the bathroom mirror, and still somehow lose the argument when the curtain goes up. The holidays are the worst. Last Christmas, I watched their celebration slide by in tidy squares. The red apron, the carved turkey, the extra chair they didn't mention. I stayed home launching a campaign and told myself the quiet was a choice. A soft knock pulls me back. It's nearly 6 in the evening, and I haven't left my apartment. Through the peephole, Rebecca, my neighbor, holding something wrapped in a kitchen towel. You looked like you could use something warm, she says when I open the door, handing me a loaf, still radiating heat. Sometimes the family we choose matters more than the one we're born into. The kindness catches me unguarded. I invite her in for coffee. It's the first conversation in days that isn't about deliverables or diplomacy. 3 days later, I'm reviewing plans for a small studio in the Arts District when Carter calls. So are you coming to the engagement party or what? He asks, lawyer voice on. Mom's losing it over the RSVP list. I look at the plans spread across my table, the shape of a future I've drawn for myself. I'm investing in myself that weekend. I say, what could possibly be more important than family? My fingers trace the outline of the conference room. $24,000 lease on a studio that houses the business you all call a hobby. Silence, then Carter's voice, hardening. Mom and Dad were right. You really have changed. A smile tugs at my mouth before I can stop it. Yes, I say, that's the idea. When the call ends, I text Jenna and Mar, cold colleagues who jumped before I did. Within minutes, they reply, we'll bring paintbrushes this weekend, and wine. 2 weeks later, the empty space begins to fill. The cafe downstairs sends up espressos and a handwritten welcome. The vintage boutique across the hall drops off a scarf to match your new sign. The florist on the corner delivers a bouquet with a note, to new beginnings. These people owe me nothing, yet they show up without being asked, celebrating a vision they only just met. It feels like the opposite of conditional love. At my dining table, I finish the launch guest list. Clients who trusted me, collaborators who shared their brains when I needed them, industry friends who opened doors my family kept closed. I set the launch for Saturday, June 12th, the same day as Miles's party. My cursor hovers over send invitations. My heart hammers like it knows exactly what I'm choosing. I take a breath and click. Morning pours through the tall windows of my new studio, laying neat rectangles of light across the polished concrete. It's 6:17 a.m. I've been here since 4, measuring, adjusting, breathing life into an empty room until it begins to look like a place where futures are made. I slide the walnut desk into its final spot and run my fingertips along the smooth edge. Every choice is deliberate. Charcoal ergonomic chairs that invite conversation without intimidation, glass partitions that define space but keep ideas moving. My company name etched in a clean, confident font near the entrance. I step back, lining the desk with the window's glow. The morning light will find me here during client meetings, warm, professional, grounded. On the central table, I arrange leather-bound portfolios in a precise grid. Case studies ripple beneath my palms, numbers that rose, audiences that returned, brands resurrected from the brink. My hand lingers on the Peterson outdoor gear file, my first big win after leaving corporate, the one Dad dismissed as a small-time project. I hold it a second longer, then place it where it belongs, front and center. When the room finally hums with readiness, a calm I haven't felt since walking out of Mom's party settles over me. This isn't a backdrop. It's a declaration. So this is why you're missing Miles's party. For work. I turn. Lydia stands in the doorway, immaculate blazer, watch flashing, expression somewhere between judgment and something I can't name yet. I didn't invite family, but here she is anyway, perfume and concern arriving unannounced. The launch has been on the calendar for months. I say, her eyes move through the space, quietly appraising the signage, the seating, the intentionality. Miles is devastated, she says. An engagement only happens once. Before I can answer, a voice lifts from the refreshment table. Giada, there you are. Jake Peterson crosses the room with a champagne flute, nodding toward a woman by the window scribbling notes. I was just telling the Chronicle reporter how your rebrand boosted our Q2 by 38%. This genius saved a 30. Your old family business. 2 more clients drift over, layering their own measures. She rebuilt our digital presence from the ground up. Quiet, steady. Our turnaround wouldn't have happened without her. Lydia's face shifts a fraction. Her mouth opens, then closes. For the first time in our adult lives, I watch my sister take in a version of me that exists beyond family myth. I had no idea, she says after a moment, voice lowered as if the truth might startle. Her phone is already out. The camera clicks. Does Mom know what this is? I consider asking her to put the phone away. I don't. Maybe the room can have the conversation I'm tired of repeating. The door keeps opening. Clients mingle with local owners. Business cards trade hands. The Portland Business Chronicle reporter asks for specifics and calls me the quiet builder behind other people's headlines. I feel my shoulders drop an inch. This, right here, is the opposite of the table where I was always the punchline. I hope you don't mind the ambush, Rebecca says, appearing at my elbow with a cluster of neighbors. We wanted to surprise you, Behind her, the retired teacher from 4B, the young couple from across the hall, even Mr. Wilson from the first floor, notoriously allergic to enthusiasm. I'm glad you came. I tell her, and I mean it far beyond politeness. The afternoon unfolds like a welcome pose scene. Clink of glass, pockets of laughter, conversations that begin with work and end with possibility. For once, the center of the room fits me. Across the space, Lydia is texting furiously. Within minutes, my phone buzzes with the family group chat lighting up beneath photographs of my studio. Lydia, Giada went all out and didn't invite any of us. Dad, choosing work over family again. Typical, Mom, the space looks lovely, sweetie. Wish we could have been there. Carter, actually impressive. Nice work, Guy, Miles. Looks professional. Sorry I missed it. Dad again. Miles's engagement should have been the priority. Some things matter more than work. The contradictions stack like crooked picture frames. Critique and reluctant credit, pride laced with rebuke. For the first time, the family's chorus doesn't sync. I can hear the seams. A private text from Miles follows. Studio looks legit. Congrats. I slide the phone back into my pocket and turn toward my guests. The validation I once begged for sits in that screen, tepid and late. The validation I need surrounds me. People whose livelihoods improved because I did my job well. Neighbors who show up without being asked. A reporter who thinks the way I think is newsworthy. By the time the last glass is rinsed and the sign on the door reads closed, the day has made something permanent in me. This isn't just a ribbon cut. It's a line I won't cross back over. The next morning, the texts arrive like a metronome. I set the phone face down, let it tap the wood while I sort contracts. Eventually curiosity wins. Dad, would have been nice to invite family. The passive-aggressive elegance of the line is almost art. He knows exactly why I didn't. Mom's voicemail balances hurt and indictment like she's rehearsed both. We raised you better than this. Miles is heartbroken you chose a work party over family. My siblings arrive in eerie harmony, wording so similar it might as well be a script. Carter, you need to apologize to Miles. Lydia, an apology would go a long way. Miles, a simple sorry is all it would take. The last message lands like a gavel. Dad, if this disrespect continues, we may have to exclude you from future gatherings until you show proper remorse. This isn't what families do. I place the phone in my drawer, close it gently, and go for a drive with all the windows down. The sky is ordinary blue. The air feels like possibility. The following day, a headline stops me mid. Sip of coffee. Portland's quiet powerhouse. How Giada Morty is transforming local businesses. The article features photos from the launch, quotes from clients, a clear-eyed summary of my approach. My email starts to fill consultation requests, partnership ideas, a speaking invitation for a leadership forum next month. I walk into the studio with my heels making crisp sounds and my lungs remembering how to hold air. During a break between meetings, I open the family chat, paste the article link without comment, silence notifications, and return to the work that keeps me whole. Silence used to be the way I disappeared. Now it is how I draw the line. 2 months later, I stand in the wings at the Portland Business Leadership Forum, notes in hand. The panel topic, building momentum without traditional support. I know this terrain by muscle and scar. As the moderator introduces us, I scan the crowd out of habit and freeze, 6 rows back. Dad sits stiff, jaw set, expression unreadable. I step into the lights anyway. I talk about strategy, about earning trust when you don't have someone vouching for you at the table, about building networks from scratch. The questions flow. I answer without hedging. When asked about the biggest obstacle, I lean in. The hardest part wasn't starting the business, I say. It was accepting that not everyone who should support you will. Success doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't require permission. It just has to matter enough to you that you keep going. Applause. Bright and uncomplicated. Afterward, in the swirl of handshakes and cards, I feel someone stop at my shoulder. That was impressive. Dad says the old casual tone fitted over something less certain. You've built something real. I turn. Thank you for coming. I say, voice even. I'm not your enemy, Giada. He extends his hand like a treaty. You're not my enemy. I agree, not taking it. But you've chosen your pride over respecting me. His hand drops. Disapproval darkens his face, the familiar weather of my childhood. I nod once and step away, leaving him where I used to stand, outside the warmth of a circle that didn't want me. Word travels fast. Aunt Carol calls to say I've broken his heart. Uncle Phil emails, unexpectedly, to say he always knew I had it. The family map redrafts itself along new lines, some condemning, some quietly admiring, most unsure what to do with a version of me that doesn't fold. When I get home Friday night, a cream envelope waits in my mailbox. Inside, an invitation to Thanksgiving at my parents' house, 3 months out, with a handwritten note along the margin in Mom's careful script. We miss you. I set it on the counter and look at it until the feelings separate into strands I can hold. What kind of peace is being offered, and at what price? Sunlight floods the expanded studio. 2 units now, corner windows, and a conference table that anchors the room like a promise. My team gathers around. I click to the next slide. The Westbrook campaign exceeded targets by 23%. I say, engagement doubled after we shifted their narrative. 5 consultants sit at my table. A version of me I barely imagined once. Bloomberg Business ran a feature on women, led consultancies. Kendra chimes in, sliding her tablet my way. You're highlighted as Portland's quiet powerhouse. I think of the years I rehearsed explanations in mirrors, the way my name used to shrink in my own mouth. Now it's in print, attached to results no one can argue with. Let's wrap. I say, smiling, great work. Later, my dining room fills with people who have become my circle, colleagues, neighbors, the coffee shop owner, the florist who sent that first bouquet. Rebecca sets down a steaming paella. To the woman who convinced me to try social commerce, Daniel grins, glass raised. I'd still be struggling without you. The pajama strategist strikes again. Amy teases, and the table laughs. The kind that holds, not cuts. Just wait until you see what I do in actual clothes. I fire back, and laughter rolls through the room. Dish by dish, story by story, I realize what I've built without meaning to. Recognition without conditions. Remember when you were afraid to say what you do. Rebecca murmurs as we clear plates. I nod. I remember hiding behind vagueness, trained by years of dismissal to expect more of the same. Not anymore. The next weekend, a small group gathers in my backyard. Lemon bars, Adirondack chairs, the original crew who showed up with paint and playlists the day I signed the lease. I raise my glass to making our own definitions of success and family. Faces shine back at me with the kind of yes I no longer beg for. Another Thanksgiving invitation lands on my desk Monday morning. The envelope still wakes the old anxiety, but it doesn't own me. The fear has faded with every proof I no longer need them to edit my story. I decide to attend, on my terms. I'll bring my portfolio, not to justify or convince, but because facts are simpler than arguments. This is who I am. This is what I've built. Lightness, unfamiliar and welcome, fills my chest. I've constructed a life big enough that I don't have to fold myself to fit inside theirs. There's a soft knock. My assistant peeks in. Your 10 o'clock is here. The CEO from Meridian Technologies. I stand, smooth the front of my dress, not to armor up, but to step forward. As I prepare to face my family again, the real question rises, clear and steady. Is it better to keep ties with those who diminish you by drawing firm lines, or to build a new circle that celebrates who you are? I learned the hardest part wasn't walking away that first night. The hardest part is choosing, if and how, to walk back in. The air outside my parents' house feels heavier than I remember, slower, like time itself resists moving forward here. Their colonial home stands polished and predictable, shutters freshly painted, hedges trimmed in perfect symmetry. It looks exactly the same as it did the day I left, and yet I'm not the same woman walking up this path. Mom opens the door before I knock, her face bright with the kind of nervous smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Giada, she says softly, like my name is both a question and a test. Behind her, the scent of rosemary and roasted chicken fills the house. We're so glad you came. Dad rises from the armchair as I step inside. He looks older, thinner, quieter, the air of authority he once carried now dulled at the edges. It's good to see you, he says, his tone careful. The words sound practiced, like lines from a play neither of us believes in yet. We sit in the living room, an arm's length apart, a gulf of unspoken history stretching between us. For a moment, the only sound is the ticking of the clock that's hung above their mantel for decades. I read the article. Dad says finally, folding his hands together, about your business. I nod, waiting. You've done well for yourself. He continues, and though his voice lacks warmth, there's something else in it, something that might be humility. Better than we expected. I let the words sit in the air before answering. That's because I stopped trying to meet expectations that kept shrinking to fit your comfort. Mom flinches, glancing down at her lap. We should have been there, she whispers, at your launch, at the panel, at your wedding. I look at her then, really look, and see not the critic of my choices, but a woman tangled in her own learned silence. At the wedding, I repeat quietly. Dad clears his throat. We were wrong. He says, though his pride catches on the word, all those years we didn't understand what you were doing. I take a slow breath. You didn't try to. The sentence lands softly but with precision. There's no venom left in it, only truth. Mom's eyes fill. How can we fix this? 3 months ago, I might have grabbed that sentence like a lifeline, twisted myself into forgiveness before they even asked. But now I know better. Some things don't need fixing. I say, just understanding. I'm not asking you to agree with me, but if we're rebuilding anything, it has to be on honesty. Dad shifts, visibly uncomfortable. What does that mean? It means if we're going to have a relationship, it has to exist outside the hierarchy you built. I'm not the kid at the table waiting for permission to speak. Silence stretches again, fragile but real. Mom reaches across the space between us, her hand trembling slightly. We'll try, she says. We want to. For the first time in years, her words sound unscripted. I nod, not with forgiveness, but with acceptance. Then we'll see where that goes. We sit there in uneasy peace, 3 people who once knew each other in roles, father, mother, daughter, now trying to meet as equals for the first time. As I drive home later that evening, city lights blink through the windshield. I realize I'm not leaving my family behind this time. I'm simply leaving the version of them that couldn't see me. A week later, my studio buzzes with quiet energy. The team's gathered for a brainstorming session, papers and laptops scattered across the table. Rebecca drops by with croissants, while Daniel refills the coffee pot. Laughter drifts easily between ideas. Giada, Kendra calls from her desk. We just got the metrics back from Meridian Technologies. Q1 revenues up 30% since we rebranded. Applause breaks out. I smile, proud not only of the numbers, but of the people who helped make them happen. My phone buzzes with a new message. Mom, dinner this Sunday, just us. The old anxiety doesn't rise this time. Instead, there's curiosity. Maybe this isn't about obligation anymore. Maybe it's about choice. Sunday evening, I walk into the small Italian restaurant near the waterfront. Mom's already there, waiting with 2 menus and a nervous energy I recognize in myself. I ordered your favorite wine, she says as I sit down. I hope that's okay. It is, I say, smiling. There's an awkward pause, and then she blurts, I watched your interview on TV. You looked so confident. Your father even showed it to his golf friends. I can't help laughing. That's a first. She smiles faintly, relief passing through her eyes. We were wrong about so many things. I think I just didn't know how to be proud without feeling left behind. That honesty disarms me. You don't have to understand everything I do, I say gently. You just have to let me be who I am. She nods, her fingers brushing a tear away before it falls. I'm learning. As the waiter brings our food, conversation begins to flow, cautiously at first, then freely. Stories about my clients, her garden, the neighborhood gossip she knows I secretly enjoy. For the first time in years, we talk without tension. When we part outside the restaurant, she hugs me. Tight, unhurried, not performative. I'm proud of you, she says. This time, I believe her. Months pass. The studio grows again, expanding into new cities through partnerships. I travel for conferences, mentor young women entering the field, and watch their eyes light up when they realize they don't need permission to succeed. The Portland Chronicle runs another story, this one about the Patterson and Morty Mentorship Initiative, a program providing paid internships for women rebuilding careers after leaving toxic workplaces. When the reporter asks what inspired it, I say simply, every woman deserves a space where her voice isn't just tolerated, it's heard. At the gala that follows, the ballroom glitters under soft gold light. My team sits at a table near the stage, Rebecca and Amy cheering the loudest when my name is called for Business Leader of the Year. As I walk to the podium, I spot my parents near the back. They're standing, clapping. It's not the center of my joy, but it adds a quiet note of grace. I take the microphone, glance out at the audience. When I started my company, people called it a side project. Some even laughed. But purpose doesn't ask for permission. It just asks for persistence. And when you keep showing up for yourself, the world eventually adjusts. Applause builds, rolling through the room like affirmation. I smile, not for the spotlight, but for the freedom of standing exactly where I chose to be. Weeks later, I return home late from a client dinner. The house is still, the city humming faintly outside. I step into my office and pause before the wall of photos. My team, my clients, the studio launch, and now the mentorship recipients whose lives are changing. This wall tells a story no approval could have written for me. A story built from every no I turned into a reason, every dismissal that became direction. I glance at my reflection in the window. The woman staring back doesn't need to rehearse her worth anymore. I whisper the words I wish my younger self had heard years ago, words I hope the women I mentor will carry into their own futures. You are already enough. Then I switch off the lights, close the door, and step into a life that finally, undeniably, feels like my own.